Good morning, everybody. It's Reverend Kyle here. One of the things that we want to do in this weird time that we're living in right now is every Friday upload a video regarding spiritual practices. Because we're not able to gather in church, what are some practices that will help us navigate our spiritual lives? And so sometimes it's going to be me, sometimes it's going to be Reverend Carmen, but I thought I would kick everything off. And so I want to kick everything off with a video about morning prayer and encourage you to adopt a discipline of morning prayer, particularly in this time. Now, my colleague, the Reverend Chris Roth, up in Red Deer, St. Leonard's on the Hill in Red Deer, did a fabulous video of morning prayer where he very much walked through the various the pages of morning prayer and commented on kind of what you should be thinking about and reflecting on as you go through morning prayer. I'll put a link there. I highly recommend that you listen or watch his video. It's fabulous. But I wanted to let you know a little bit about how I set up morning prayer when I do it at home. Because morning prayer is a litany and a liturgy that sometimes can be confusing, or it can seem confusing unless you know the ins and outs. But there is a way that you can set it up that I think minimizes that confusion, and I would just want to let you know about that and lead you into that. Before I get into that, let me say this. For those who are here at Holy Cross, you will recognize what I'm about to say. For my doctoral studies, I had to do a research study in the parish, and so I did it on morning prayer and took a group of people and they committed themselves to doing the liturgy of morning prayer every single day for 10 weeks. And we found out a whole bunch of different things at the end, but there are two things that I want to remind you of that we found at the end of this study. Firstly, 100% of people who were involved in the study felt a deeper connection with God through doing morning prayer every single weekday. And they also felt a deeper connection to the Christian community through doing the liturgy of morning prayer every single morning in their homes. This is a crazy time and we can't come to church, and maybe you're feeling a little bit disconnected spiritually with God and with the Christian brothers and sisters and with your church. And if that's the case, then I would highly recommend that you take up a practice of morning prayer. Again, 100% of people felt closer to God and felt closer to the Christian brothers and sisters, the Christian community. And so if you're wanting that connection, if you're wanting to feel that deeper connection, then I highly recommend and encourage you to consider taking up the practice of morning prayer. So if you do, you're going to need a couple things. You're going to need your Bible, right? And you're going to need, because you're going to have to do some readings. You're going to need your Bible, and you're going to need a book of alternative services. This video is going to be based on the book of alternative services. That's how I do morning prayer at home. So this is kind of what we're talking about. You can do the Book of Common Prayer if you want. But the order of that's going to be different than this video, so know that. The other thing that you're going to need is a couple sticky notes. Now, if you have a Post-it note, cut it into 3. Get a piece of tape and, but just something where you can mark pages. The other thing that you're going to need is you're going to need the lectionary. You're going to need the readings of the day. And there's a whole lot of different ways that you can get that. Because you're engaging this online, I'll tell you the online ways. One is to go through the Anglican church website, anglican.ca, and they'll have a page there of lectionary. And so you can click on that and you can choose your day, and it will come up with the readings for the day of morning prayer and Eucharist and evening prayer, and it will show that for you. The other thing that you can do is there's a site through Vanderbilt, and you can then actually get the entire morning prayer readings for the entire liturgical year. And I might actually recommend that you go to that site, because then you can copy and paste the entire year, put it into a Word document, and print it up. And the best thing about that site is that it will come up via day. So you don't need to worry about trying to figure out, is this the third Sunday of Lent, or is this the fourth Sunday after Pentecost? You don't have to try to remember that. You'll just go to the date, April 14th or whatever it is, and look at the readings, and it'll be there. So it's a pretty user-friendly way to do that. And so now, provided that you have the lectionary with you and the BAS and the Bible, you're ready to go. If you don't have a Bible, and if you don't have the book of alternative services, there are online versions that you can get. Or what I would recommend is that you call me, and you can borrow them from the church. I can give you one of the Bibles from our pews. I can run over a BAS to help you with that. So give me a call if you don't have those resources. So how do you set up morning prayer? Morning prayer begins on page 47 of the Book of Alternative Services. Now, if you want, you can start with the penitential rite. That's on page 45. You can do that. That's kind of seen as somewhat of an option, but you don't have to. You can just start on page 47. And so that's where morning prayer starts. Now, before we kind of go through the flow, what I'm going to ask you to do is take one of your sticky notes and put it on page 53. And you're going to do that right at the top, right there, right? And so it's going to stick out to the right, not up at the top. You're going to stick it out to the right on page 53. Then you're going to get your second sticky note, and you're going to put that in the middle of the page on page 117. So just like that. So you have one sticky note on page 53, and you have one in the middle of the page on page 117. Last thing I'm going to have you do is you're going to turn to page 131, and you're going to put a sticky note right at the bottom of the page, on page 131. Okay, and so here's what it should look like when you look at the front of your book. You have one sticky note, it doesn't have to be multicolor, one sticky note at the top, one in the middle, and one at the bottom. And that's how you're going to set it up. And now you're ready to do morning prayer. So in the morning, you're going to get up, and you're going to take your book of alternative services, and you're going to begin morning prayer. And whether you start with the penitential rite or on page 47, you're just going to begin. And you're going to go through things that are written down, right? So, Lord, open our lips, and our mouth shall proclaim your praise. You're going to start going through that. After the general introduction, you get the invitatory. And you're just going to say one sentence. There are general sentences and there are seasonal sentences. If you're not comfortable with the seasonal ones, just stick with the first four. That's okay. You're going to say one sentence. And then you're going to move to the Venite, the Jubilate, or if we are after Easter, you might want to do the Christ our Passover on page 50. Again, you're going to do one, right? If you're not sure if you should do the Christ our Passover, then stick to the Venite or the Jubilate. And so you're just moving section by section through the liturgy. Once you're done the Venite or the Jubilate or Christ the Passover, you're going to close your book and set it to the side, because now you're getting into the readings. And if you've gone through the Vanderbilt site, or if you've gone through the Anglican site, you will see that there will be a psalm and there'll be two readings, often an Old Testament and a New Testament, although sometimes that might change. It might be two New Testament readings, depending on the year or the part of the year. And so you're just going to grab your Bible, and you're going to start with the psalm, and you're just going to read whatever the lectionary is. The psalm, then the Old Testament, then the New Testament, and all that kind of stuff. Once you're done, you're going to put that off to the side. And then you're going to grab because you're not reading anything else, and then you're going to grab your BAS again. Now, where you've closed it, where do you go? What's the next step? Well, now you're going to use the sticky notes for the rest of morning prayer. And what you're going to do is you're going to start at the top and you're going to work your way down. So grab the sticky note, keeping it pointed to the right, and open the book. And so you're going to be opening right to page 53. Now, you're going to know that you're doing it right if the sticky note points to the right. Yeah, you see how that works? But it's true. Like if the sticky note is pointing to the right, then you know that you've done it right. You've done it correctly. And so here is the affirmation of faith. That is the very next thing. If you went back one page, you would see, well, this is where the psalm and the proclamation of the word is. You've just done that. You've done the psalm and you've done the reading. So you would have naturally turned the page, and here you are in the affirmation of faith. You're not saying a sermon, so you just continue on. And you can choose the Apostles' Creed or the Hero Israel. Once you've done that, you will see that the next section that you're doing is the intercessions and thanksgivings. Now, where do I find the intercessions? Because they're not listed here. Well, go to the middle sticky note. Keeping it pointed to the right, you turn the pages over, and now you're going to find you're right at the litany of mourning. Okay, now there's a lot of litanies. It goes from 110 onwards. And you can experiment with the different forms. There are general ones and there are seasonal ones. I've just marked out the season of the mourning. And you can just go through those litanies, those petitions, add your own prayers if you want. And we encourage you to do that. But that's how you would go forward. Once you're done that, you might think, well, what do I do now? Because now I'm not in the liturgy of morning prayer. Now I can't just turn the next page. So what am I supposed to do? Well, use your last sticky note. Keeping it pointed to the right, turn the page. And here you have the collects. And I just want to show you. So if you were following the liturgy of morning prayer, what you will see is you do the affirmation of faith, then it's the intercessions and thanksgivings, and right after that is the collect. And so that's what these sticky notes lead you to. And I've pointed you to general collects. So not the collects of the week, because again, then you're going to need to try to remember, is this the third Sunday after Lent, or is this the fourth Sunday after Lent, and all of that kind of stuff. And every once in a while, the Book of Alternative Services, it kind of jumps in the way that it structures the collects. So I've pointed you to just the collects for morning. Now there are, I think, 8 of them. And so you can just choose to do one every day. There's one prayer for Sunday. There's a prayer for Friday, a prayer for grace, a prayer for guidance, a prayer for strength. So you can just do one of them. And so you're just going to say one of these collects. Now, so the question might be then, well, what do I do after this? Because if I turn the page, I get the Vigil of Resurrection and the collects for evening. So how do I know where to go? In the flow of morning prayer, after you say the intercessions, after you say the collect, you're going to end morning prayer with the Lord's Prayer and then with a word of dismissal. Let us bless the Lord. Now, a lot of people have memorized the Lord's Prayer because we say it so often. And if you've memorized it, you can just close your book and you can just end your morning prayer through recitation of the Lord's Prayer. If you want it ahead, if you want it for you, you can go back to that top sticky. This time, having it point to the left, you just open your Bible with it pointed to the left and you're right at the Lord's Prayer. So it's easy to find if you need to, and then you can just do the Lord's Prayer and then you can do the dismissal. And so if you're confused, after you're done the bottom sticky, you can go to the top sticky, but that point you're going to be pointing it to the left. And that's pretty simple. So that's pretty much it. And then you're just going to end. And, you know, depending on how long your prayers are, depending on how long the readings are, morning prayer wouldn't take you more than probably 10, maybe 13 minutes or something like that. And so it might seem daunting at first, but once you get to know the flow and what comes next, and know that how I can work the sticky notes, moving from top to bottom, and now I just move to the next sticky, and then now I move to the next sticky, and all that kind of stuff, it becomes very easy to use. So I will put those links down in the bottom of the comment section. But let me know how it works for you. If it's still confusing, if you get kind of confused along the way and you get hung up somewhere, or if you're trying it for the very first time and you found that it works very well, put a note down. Let me know that we are connecting with you through this video, but also that morning prayer is proving to be something special for you. God bless you in this time and in your spiritual life. Amen.